Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is the Super Bowl preview show for the Yankee and the Brit. Are we excited, Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, that's not the logo. Has the NFL changed the logo to show that they got the rigging wrong this year? Have they had to change the logo again? Is that the problem?
No, I just like that one better than the one they made with the Roman numerals. So I use this one.
Yeah, with the what was it, red and purple, because the Chiefs defy all rigging in the NFL. Well, Taylor Swift comes into the Chiefs and then therefore stops the rigging process. And now Taylor Swift has got to be at the front and center of the Super Bowl, and she works for the CIA, and she's taking down Donald Trump from the inside, I hear.
Yeah, and did you see that the Japanese embassy released a statement saying that she'll be able to make her concert and then her flight back for the Super Bowl? And they broke down the hours and everything, like it's 17 hours difference or with the flight, and she'll be back in time. The embassy released a whole statement on it because people in Japan were afraid she was going to bail on the concert.
Yeah, there was loads of memes saying like Swifties doing the math to make sure that Taylor can make it to the concert, and it's like, well, it's very simple maths, guys. It's like, this is how long the flyer is, this is how long the flight is, and this is how many hours she is away. There is something called time difference. Like, she's making it with time to spare is the quite funny thing about the whole issue.
Yeah, and it was reported that the NFL is expecting 20 plus million viewers that they normally wouldn't get because of Taylor Swift. And here's the wild stat for everybody. There is around 360 million people in the United States. It's estimated over 200 million people are going to watch this Super Bowl. And I didn't believe those numbers until they came out of Roger Goodell's mouth, because Roger Goodell wouldn't have said it if it's not going to hit it, because he would be crushed in the media if they hit 180 million and he said 200.
Yeah, my favorite bits are the people who say, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl this year because the NFL is clearly rigged and all of that. And it's like, hey, man, we all know that you're going to be clowning whoever loses in the meme pages on Facebook. We know you're going to watch the game. We know. So there's just no need to lie. Just get into the pomp and circumstance of the Super Bowl. It is probably the greatest show on earth. Like, considering it's a sport that's only really played in one country, it's pretty mad the viewership it gets. It's pretty mad the audience that it gets from not just the States and all over the world.
One of the funniest memes I saw on Facebook this week was, I bet the same people bitching about Taylor Swift are the ones who are going to stop watching because of kneeling. Like, that shit made me laugh. I ain't even going to lie. Like, you can feel however you want about the kneeling. That's not what I'm saying, but that shit was funny. Like, yeah. Before we get into it, a quick thing I want to tell everybody. On February 10th, live, Street Beefs Awards, Heart in the Fight will be giving out their 4th annual Street Beefs Awards. The Yankee and the Brit was invited to vote on these awards, so we had a vote. So just everybody make sure you tune in on February 10th at 10 p.m. Eastern to Heart in the Fight for the 4th annual Street Beefs Awards. All right, I wanted to get that in there before I forgot.
Let's see if we can present one next year. How do we get onto that?
That's
like,
what
that
Daniel,
like Emmy list?
Daniel will let us. I will just have to mention it.
Next year. Or can we do some sort of roast at the start? That'd be great. Let's anything like that. That'd be so much fun. I miss the roast.
Yeah, we were just talking about how Winging It needs to do another roast too, because we've had so much fun with them and Dell hasn't been roasted yet. But before we get into some Super Bowl talk, Maddie, a couple things maybe we should go through in the news of the NFL. There's some coaching things, there's some different things, but what I wanted to talk about, because you and I just briefly touched on it, but you got zero explanation from me yesterday. Maddie is very excited about the first game in South America.
I just think it's fun. I think it's good for the NFL. I understand why people don't necessarily
my response was
globalization is good.
It's not that. My response was, I fucking hate it. It's the worst thing you could do to a team. It has zero to do with Central America. It has zero to do with playing a game. Well, it's not zero to do with it, but has nothing to do with the out of country games for the most part and Central America. My fucking issue is, if you're the Eagles, you just got royally fucked because, one, for the Eagles, you're just coming off a training camp. You don't even know who you are as a team yet. You don't even get to fucking get used to the season. And they're like, hey, week 1, go play in Colombia, right? Or South America. Is it Colombia? Somewhere.
Brazil.
Yeah. So Brazil. Go play in Brazil. So take this fucking flight all the way to Brazil. Go fucking play a game. And we're going to fuck your home fans by stealing from the season ticket holders the season opener. We're going to steal that. It's a huge deal in the NFL, but we're going to steal that from your home fans in Philadelphia. That's my issue. If they did it week 2, week 7, week 8, I wouldn't have an issue. I think week 1 was the dirtiest thing the NFL could do to a team.
Yeah, I was surprised that it was the first week of the season. I do get on the side of the fans in that debate where, like, look, with the London games and the Germany games and everything like that, I think it is fair to have one. In obviously Mexico has a game as well. I think it is fair to have them in South America too. The first game of the season is a mad one to take away, especially from a football city like Philadelphia as well. Like, I could understand if it was maybe a smaller market, but then still, like, smaller market is still pretty harsh. But Philadelphia,
Green Bay is the smallest market, and our city is popping for the first week of this NFL.
I think, I think smallest market and fan base doesn't necessarily correlate in the way that I'm wanting it to there. But like Philly is a big fan base with really passionate fans who like love the sport, love the game. If the reason that the London games worked so well originally is because it was the Jacksonville Jaguars who couldn't fill their stadium in Jacksonville, so it made sense for them to come over to London. There's a few teams like the LA Chargers, I think, could do with as much help as they can. Like outside of LA, if they build up global fan bases, I think they're the kind of teams that would really benefit from this kind of thing where you could take an LA Chargers home game and you can move it to wherever you like, because the LA Chargers are basically playing an away game wherever they're playing, even when
not
they play
anymore.
At home. So, yeah, I understand they're going to get a few new fans with John Harbaugh. I get it. But still, I feel like when they're in SoFi Stadium, you always feel like the away fans are getting like a decent chunk of the tickets there.
I just think
I love the fact that the NFL is expanding.
Sorry, there's a little delay, guys, so I cut Maddie off. No, finish up what you were saying.
Just sorry. I do love the fact that the NFL is expanding. I love the fact the pluses of it being in week 1 is, yes, they are coming off training camp, but they can go down early. Like, is the way to do it. Like, you can have like part of your training camp in Brazil. Like, you can have your week.
Final cuts are 6 days before kickoff.
You'll have to take them. Like you could do it. Like, you can go have your final week of training camp in Brazil, building into the game. I think that'll be.
The NFL fucked this so bad, I think, with the week they picked. That's my problem. Like, I was
week
like,
1, who are they playing? Who are they playing week 1?
They didn't say yet, but rumors are it's the Cowboys.
Okay. Well, that makes sense for the NFL from a monetary standpoint then, doesn't it? But
yeah, but like, my problem is like, okay, see, and I'm hypocritical and I admit this. I don't like when the Vikings have to go overseas, but if it's an away game, I'm like, cool, whatever. If you snatch a home game, I have a fucking problem. So yes, I'm very hypocritical about that. But I think it was just dirty to do it. I think it was dirty to the team and to the fans to do it week 1, because not only are you stealing a home game, which I get they're trying to do it every other year and steal a home game from one of the teams who have the 9th home game. You know what I mean? Because it goes back AFC, NFC. Yeah. But week 1, I just felt it was dirty to do the fans because it's such an exciting time and everybody's been waiting through the offseason, and we've went through the playoffs, the preseason and the draft, and everybody's just can't wait for football. And now the home fans who pay tons of money for these season tickets don't get that week one celebration. I think that was kind of dirty to do them that way. That was where my issue came in.
Yeah, I think if it's week one and a division rival, that then becomes quite an unfair advantage, really, like in the whole scheme of the division rival. In like your in-division competition, you get one of your games at home against a division rival taken away, and not just like a division rival. It's hard to see going into next year that the Cowboys and the Eagles aren't going to be the division rivals again, like both of the teams competing for first and second spot. Although obviously Commanders fans and Giants, like it's the NFL, it's also the NFC East where nobody wins the division the same 2 years in a row.
I thought Washington was going to win the Super Bowl because of Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury comes back, so they get Caleb Williams immediately.
Is that not the wildest coaching story you've ever heard? Because he went from, I'm going to the Bears, wait, I'm going to take this Raiders job, and then he wants a 3-year contract like every fucking coordinator gets, and the Raiders are like, no, we're only offering you 2, and then he goes, well, fuck you, I'm going to Washington then. Weirdest shit ever for a coach.
Yeah, let's move on to the Kingsbury story, because when you messaged me saying that, and I did start seeing it on ESPN, like as you messaged me saying it, but I thought he was with the Bears. I thought he was the Bears offensive coordinator. I thought it was signed, sealed, delivered. Cliff Kingsbury is the Bears offensive coordinator. I already thought he was in Chicago preparing the offense for Caleb Williams.
That's what I thought. That he was already agreed to be the Bears coordinator. So I don't know what happened there, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, no, he's going to the Raiders. And you're like, okay, that's weird. But the Raiders need an offensive coordinator. They're going to, bring in Cliff to go with. And I think and I know people can shit on how he did as a head coach, but I think if you're a new coach, the more former coaches you can put on the staff, head coaches, it's just going to help you when you've never been a head coach, because you can go to them and go, hey, what would you have done in this situation? Or how did you handle this? So I got it. Made sense to me. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're like, he's going to Washington. And then you find out it's because of a contract dispute that they didn't want to give him 3 years in Vegas instead of 2. They wanted to give him 2. So Cliff's like, no, I'm going to go take the 3 years in Washington. Neither team has a quarterback. So, like, if you're going to go be the offensive coordinator, and then the Raiders would have to give up a ton to move up, right, to get that quarterback. Yeah. Maybe he felt better, like, I get to help Washington choose the next guy under center. I don't know I'm just going through my head what the thinking would be outside of the year. And then my thing is, are you really worried about that 1 year? Because you're still being paid by Arizona for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's a better place for him to be in Washington, to be perfectly honest, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, because nobody's expecting anything out of that organization. Let's just put it that way. Like, nobody expects anything from the Commanders. They're a bit of a joke in the NFL at the moment, but they're sneakily building a really great coaching staff there. I think Dan Quinn, although I'm not sure I'd want him to be the head coach of my team, he's very famous for putting together really great coaching across his entire team. If you think of that Atlanta team that he took to the Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan is the offensive coordinator, and then all of the Kyle Shanahan disciples as well, I think Dan Quinn's going to create a great staff there. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a great guy to bring in. Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona, not a great tenure there in Arizona. That's unfortunate for him. And look, I'm not sure that he is head coaching material. He's a fantastic offensive coordinator. He made Kyler Murray look like probably one of the best rookies ever to come into the NFL. Like, he's a great, great coordinator.
And maybe he got fucked in the Cardinals because everybody from that regime is gone. So maybe they just handled that awful. But my questions come in is, why does everybody hate Dan Quinn? Because he did a great job Atlanta. I don't understand the fucking hate of him being a head coach. And two, what is your thoughts on them just shit canning Eric Bieniemy and going, no thanks, you could get the fuck out of here. We're going to bring in Cliff Kingsbury. If you're Eric Bieniemy, you can't get a head coaching job and you get bounced for Cliff Kingsbury. You got to feel a certain way about that.
Yeah, I wonder what Eric Bieniemy does now. I've seen so many.
He's going to end up on Kansas City staff somehow.
Yeah, I would imagine he goes back to Kansas City. I've seen so many people saying, bring in Eric Bieniemy for the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator job. And it's like, hang on, like Mike McCarthy has faults. His offensive coordinating is good enough. Like he's got the highest scoring offense in the, like, let's calm down. Like Mike McCarthy's offensive coordinator job is fine. He's good. I don't want Eric Bieniemy in the building. Is he the kind of guy that Antonio Gibson in Vegas like looks at and says, all right, like, yeah, worked with Andy Reid, like obviously brings him into the division, into Andy Reid's division and the Kansas City Chiefs division. Is that a fit that makes sense for them? Like worked with Patrick Mahomes, could potentially like did a great job with Sam Howell at the start of the season. People seem to forget with Eric Bieniemy, like Sam Howell fell off towards the end, but he looked like he was going to have that starting job in the Commanders for time to come at the start of the season. So I think Eric Bieniemy still has that QB whisperer element about him. Like I think he would be a good fit for the Raiders if that's where he's going to end up, or Carolina, somewhere like that. Just anywhere where there's a young quarterback which needs somebody to come in and help them out. Will he want to call the plays? Is the main question with Eric Bieniemy. Will he want to be the offensive coordinator, calling the plays now that he's been able to do it in Washington?
They should let him because Antonio Pierce is a defensive guy anyway, right? So whoever comes in Vegas, you figure is going to be calling the plays. I don't know who you bring in, and this is just a question leading into that too. Do you think the Raiders are a legitimate spot that maybe Justin Fields lands, since we're hearing the rumors now, and who knows how true they are, but the rumors are coming out that the Bears are going to move on from Justin Fields and trade him?
Yeah, obviously I like the Falcons for some time as a destination for him, but now I think they're probably going to move away from that style of offense. I think with the Raiders draft position, I think that would be one. I think it would be a good place for him to go. Like big market, like just again, a team that nobody expects anything from the Raiders, right? Like what do people expect from the Raiders? In the same way, what do people expect from the Commanders? Like they don't expect big things from either of them. So any good that you can do is going to make you look good, right? Their draft position is horrible in terms of like this quarterback class. Do you draft Justin Fields and then wait until Michael Penix looks like he's dropping further now, like out of the second after not playing in the Super Bowl, like in the Senior Bowl? Do you have guys like Spencer Rattler is somebody that people who've been talking about saying the NFL is a lot higher on Spencer Rattler than the media are in terms of Spencer Rattler as well. Like, do you take Justin Fields and take one of those guys and see what you've got in either of them? I really like that for the Raiders. I think it would be a good move. I also like that for the Bears. I'm interested to see what the Bears do with that pick, because Caleb Williams' team seems to be pretty vocal on him not going there, although is that just his dad and Caleb?
And under the new rules, he hasn't signed an agent yet, so he can pull out the draft and go back to college.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I think he's got to. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to, like with the NIL money and everything like that. Like it does, like it makes sense. But with his season, yeah, but with his season last year, he seemed to fall down. Like he was so far ahead of all of the other quarterbacks in this draft at the beginning of last year that he seems to have fallen back into the pack a little bit with his last season. Is now his best time to leverage his time to go into the NFL? I think so. And with the current position, he can leverage himself into an organization that has weapons and has like some good qualities around it. I mean, if I'm him looking at the Bears organization, I don't hate that position. Do I wish they got their hands on Cliff Kingsbury? Yes, because obviously I'm not keen on Eberflus, but there are some weapons there. There are some, but
no, Eberflus just went somewhere else. I forgot where he just signed.
What?
Yeah, I'm trying to look right now.
What? That's out of nowhere.
Luke Getsy, right? Nope, he's going to Vegas. Luke Getsy's going to Vegas.
Luke Getsy, right? Okay.
Oh yeah, that's who I was thinking about. Not Eberflus. Sorry, I was thinking about Getsy. Left the Bears and went to the Raiders. That's who it was.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay, that just told me back. I was like, oh my god, Eberflus, no way. Yeah. Okay, Luke Getsy's heading off to the Raiders. Okay. Yeah. Look,
Shane Waldron is their new offensive coordinator. That's it.
Okay. Shane Waldron's not bad. No, I don't. I'm not keen on Shane Waldron personally as an offensive coordinator, but we move on. Look with the whole Caleb Williams situation at the top of the draft. It is interesting to see that Cliff Kingsbury ended up going to the Commanders. Now, do the Commanders say to the Bears, look, we'll give you to move back one spot, we'll give you this. And go for
if
that.
I'm the Bears,
then they get out of the Caleb Williams drama.
You still have to give me a minimum of 2 first rounds for me to move back one if I'm the Bears.
Yeah, that's the kind of offer that I was thinking. Because that makes them look good, right? The Bears are able to save face in the Chicago media there. They're also then able to take either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, like depending on which one they prefer. We at this show personally prefer Jaden Daniels, but that's up to you.
I think if anybody considers Drake May over Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, they should be fired.
Yeah. I think people will take. I think the Commanders will take Caleb Williams because obviously the Cliff Kingsbury connection now. If Caleb Williams falls there, so I think it'll be interesting where everybody else kind of drafts with that one. But if you're the Commanders, do you say to the Bears, "Look, we'll give you 2 to just make sure we get our guy," and then move on? I wouldn't if I'm the Commanders because I want to call the Bears bluff and see if they take Williams, considering what he said about the organization.
Well, that's my thing too. So now if you're Caleb Williams and you're like steadfast, I am not playing for the Bears, and he's let that be known, I guess, a couple times. And the Bears go, we're going to call your bluff and draft you. Then I'm just going to pull out before the draft and go back to college and leave you sitting with your dick in your hand. If you're the Bears, don't you almost have to trade that pick, or are the Bears wild enough where they're going to take that pick anyway? I don't know. But I feel like it weakens. I feel like it really weakens the Bears' standings to have the quarterback not want to play for you.
Yeah, because people have been comparing the whole Manning situation. The thing with that is they have to then have a trade partner with a quarterback in building as well. Because if they're wanting to trade back for the picks, you still want to be in that top 3 conversation, right? Where at least you get the choice of Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, or loophole and drop back where you get Bo Nix, Penix, JJ McCarthy, who people are now saying is going to be the number 1 overall pick, which is just fucking smoke and mirrors the entire thing. Like that's not going to happen, I don't think. But it's an interesting position for the Bears to be in. Personally, I'm calling the Commanders right now and saying, if you give us 2, we'll move back and you can have your guy. If not, we're going to draft him and trade him to whoever wants him.
See, and if I'm the Bears, I trade Fields, I draft Daniels, and I just move on with it. But that's just me. But then here's the question. What is Fields worth in a trade? Because I don't think he's definitely not worth a first-round draft pick. So what are you willing to take if you're the Bears on a trade for Justin Fields?
I think it's with Justin Fields, it's an interesting conversation because it's either basically some people will either say he's not worth anywhere near a first rounder. Like people will say probably around the third, fourth round pick. Like, because obviously you've got to pay him as well. That's the other part. Like, you've got to negotiate a contract with Justin Fields in the next year or so. You've got to work out whether you're going to tag him. You've got like that. There's stuff you've got to do if you trade for him and you want to hold on to Fields as well. It's not like you're just taking a guy whose contract's all sorted and we know what's happening. So there's things that you've got to sort out. There's also the other people who'll say, if I had that talent on my roster, he'll look like a first round pick for me. So there's certain situations for him, but those guys aren't in the trade market for him because they're making their quarterbacks look like that. So if you think like, oh yeah, 49ers, like behind that line, which isn't shade on Brock Purdy, I think Brock Purdy makes them look absolutely incredible compared to what most people would be able to do behind that line. So like, but if he wasn't there, for example, or he didn't pan out, then you would say, oh, Justin Fields to there would make sense. If Lamar Jackson went down with an injury, oh, Baltimore makes sense. If there's a few places, but if I'm the Raiders and I'm in the situation that I'm in, I'm willing to push a first if like that's my only quarterback option.
Okay, and then before we move on to the game that we're all here to talk about, there's a wild rumor going around. I'm a homer in this, so I want your opinion. There is a big push, and I shouldn't say it's a rumor. It's a big push from some of the media. I don't know where this came from, that the Vikings should trade Justin Jefferson to the Arizona Cardinals for both of their picks at 4 and 27 plus next year's first. With 4, they're saying you take Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you have 2 more picks to figure out where your quarterback is.
See, I hate that. I really hate that because the draft is such a crapshoot. Like, look, Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like a sure thing. So did Quentin Johnson last year. And look at like Quentin Johnson looks like he has hands made of steel. Like he can't feel the ball. Like he attacks the ball too much. Like, sure, maybe he'll get better in the second year, but he's not going to be Justin Jefferson, is he? So let's see where Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Let's see who he is before we start talking about any of that. Look, getting 3 first-round picks for a wide receiver is going to tempt anybody, but I also think they know where their quarterback is. Like, I think the Vikings should be in go all-out mode. I think the Vikings have been in enough, like, we've been good for a period of time, but not great for a period of time. They have a quarterback who is one of the top 10 in the league, no matter what, no matter where you place him in the top 10. I've personally got, I would always, as always, when we have this conversation, we need to go through the list, but I can guarantee he's in the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, probably pushing towards the top 5,
Mad Dog
10
Russo
to 5
had
area.
4.
Yeah, you've got your quarterback for the next 2 years. Let's watch the Vikings actually go for it this year with a Packers team where, great, Jordan Love looked amazing for a few games. He also looked trash for a few. Yeah, they'll want to get JJ's contract done first, I imagine. What do you think? Oh, JJ's contract done.
I don't think you get better by trading the best player at a position in the league, but it's not the dumbest trade I've ever heard, especially with Jordan Addison sitting there. So you pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr., and now you have 2 more picks in this first round, plus you'll have 2 picks the next year in the first round. You already know how I feel about Penix. So if you want to take Penix at 11, I know people think it's way too high. I don't. I'm okay with that. And then you add to the roster again. I think it would be a death blow for Kawasi's job if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I just think the Vikings have been a good, solid team for quite a few years. Sorry?
I said I resign Cousins already if I'm them.
Yeah,
Especially if the asking price
Vikings,
is really only $40 million, just pay him.
yeah, the Vikings have been such a solid team for so long that I think it's time to actually go for it this year. If I'm them, I'm not worrying about the future. If I'm the Vikings organization, like how much would you give to be in the Super Bowl if you're the Vikings right now? Like if as a Cowboys fan, we haven't been there forever. I'd give anything.
And what people are failing to realize is like they can do both, because if you re-sign Justin Jefferson to a big deal, you already have 56 million freed up. It's estimated that that's going to free up at over $10 million if you re-sign him this year. So now you're at 66. So even if you sign Kirk, you do a couple of the Fugazi years at the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can add a ton of talent to this team and still build for the future, because you know Cousins is only going to be there for 2 years. So you structure JJ's contract to where the big hit comes after Kirk is gone.
Yeah, and look, that pick at 11 doesn't put you out of the it's people think that 11 is such a bad pick in this current draft for quarterbacks because of the big three, right? Because you're missing out on who people perceive as the big three. But then you look at the teams after, you've got the Cardinals there who aren't going to draft a quarterback. You've got the Chargers there who aren't going to draft a quarterback. You've got a few teams in there who won't be going quarterback. You could land Penix at 11. You could take who you want at 11 or trade back to a suitable spot where you see Penix is good value as a draft pick. Like Bo Nix is probably going to be there. There's JJ McCarthy, I think, is probably still going to be there.
Football.
If you take JJ
Either
McCarthy.
Of those two.
Yeah, not 11. Like, obviously, if you trade back, but not to play for you, like, just to sit behind and see what you've got. Like, it's not that they can't build for the future, but what I want to see from the Vikings is just this stop. Like, oh, yeah, competing for the NFC North and getting into the playoffs, that's good enough for us. No, you have a star quarterback, 2 star wide receivers. Now you have Brian Flores running the defense, where he made that defense look great towards the end of the year. Teams started to diagnose it a little bit and started to pick up the blitz a bit more in the last couple of games, but like with more wrinkles, with more talent, with better players, like you've got the Vikings have got everything there to make a run at the Super Bowl next year if they play their cards right, sign a couple of the right players, have a good draft. Like, go for it if you're the Vikings. Don't say, oh, we think this is a good time to play for the future and pick up 3 third-round picks for the best player, the best wide receiver in the league. Like, it's a good deal. 3 third-round picks is a good deal, but for me, it shows a step backwards from the Vikings rather than forwards into actually making it to the Super Bowl.
Personally, I think they need to re-sign Justin. They need to re-sign Kirk, and they need to re-sign Danielle Hunter and figure the rest out after that.
Yeah, get those 3 done. And then you have your whole offseason to play around with the cap and all of that kind of stuff.
All right. Are you ready to talk about the Super Bowl?
Let's go for it.
All right, Maddie. Well, the spread is in today at the 49ers are favored by 2 in the Super Bowl. We have an over-under of 47.5. It's going to be a wild game, though, I think. My head says one thing, my heart says another. So I'm really, really weirdly stuck right now. And I still have been flip-flopping all morning about who I'm going to pick.
I've known who I'm going to pick for the past week, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I'm never betting against Patrick Mahomes when he's an underdog ever again. And I'm not betting against the Chiefs like that either. I think the 49ers have showed, well, let's stay on the Chiefs just for a little bit. In big time situations, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have done exactly what they've needed to do to win. And in the Super Bowl, the only thing they need to do is win. There are no style points for winning in the Super Bowl. There's no any media stuff that comes out after you've won the Super Bowl will be all you'll need to say is We won the Super Bowl. That's all that needs to happen. There's no questions that need to be answered. Not like in the regular season where I'm not saying style points matter, but if you blow out teams, if you're looking strong against bad teams, if you're beating the teams that you need to beat, like the media ask you more favorable questions, get more hype built around your team and all of that and all of those kind of things. The Chiefs have shown that they have the ability to win those tight games. They've shown that they have the ability to, with Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. And let's not forget, this is probably the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has ever had. So he doesn't need to throw for 40 points a game. When the Chiefs have scored 20 points in a game, they've not lost.
I don't disagree with anything you just said, but my head tells me to take the Chiefs. My gut tells me San Francisco's the better team, and I'm just stuck. And I'm like, I am not sure. And all logic tells me to take the Chiefs, but I think I really want San Francisco to win.
All right. Take the 49ers, man.
I don't know.
Like, I'm
not picking yet.
Just go with your gut.
I'm thinking. I will pick before we get out of here, but I am thinking.
All right.
I'm just going back and forth. So if the 49ers win, what do you think the game plan has to be for them to win this game?
For the 49ers to win, the defense has to step up in a way that it hasn't really stepped up. Like, it stepped up for that second half against Detroit, but I think as we diagnosed in the last podcast that we did, Detroit shot themselves in the foot like a couple of times there with strange play calling, poor game management, like lots of issues there. So the 49ers defense was kind of lucky to get off the hook. The Chiefs aren't going to let you get off the hook that easily with that kind of thing. With Andy Reid looking at this 49ers defense, which has been poor for the past few weeks, I think he's had time to diagnose what the issues are and he'll break them down. For the 49ers to win, Samurai Jack is right. They have to start out by stopping the run, and they have to, most importantly, they have to continue to move the ball against this awesome defense. And their big players need to make big plays on the offensive side of the ball for that to happen.
I'm thinking about Taylor Swift right now. Does Taylor Swift affect the outcome of this game at all? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Hang on. Her favorite number is 13, apparently. Her favorite number. This is the 13th game that she will go to watch of the Kansas City Chiefs. There's another crazy. There's
Purdy is number 13, and the game is played on 11. And isn't the game played to where it's 2-11, so it ends up being 13 for the day?
Yeah, when you add it together, it's 13. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So obviously the Taylor Swift voodoo is out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are the other ones?
Give me the 49ers -2, because even if they lose, it's a close game, and I maybe win it with the point spread. I'm taking the Niners.
Yeah, what do you think it means for the? What do you think it means for the Niners if they win this game? We'll start off with what do you think it means for Kyle Shanahan? What do you think it means for Brock Purdy if they win this game?
Well, for the organization, they're the best team in NFL history. 7 rings. That's where
I was going to go with that.
It separates them from that. For Brock Purdy, it means everybody needs to shut the fuck up about Brock Purdy, right? Like, they need to already. This guy went to 2 NFC championship games. He's in the Super Bowl, and people still want to talk about Brock Purdy like he can't play football, which is wild to me. And for Kyle Shanahan, it just reaffirms what everybody already thought. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it adds to his legacy. It just finally gives him the Super Bowl that everybody thought he was going to get anyway.
Yeah, I think it does mean a lot for Kyle Shanahan's legacy, because I think if they lose, if we take it from the perspective if they lose, I think people will say, look, he assembles these great teams. He has these guys, but he can't get them over. He can't get them over the edge. He can't get them past the finish line. He had the chance to win a Super Bowl against Jared Goff and he didn't do it. But people will forget that he had Jimmy Garoppolo in that Super Bowl. I think for Brock Purdy, win or lose for Brock, I think all he needs to do is go out and like not be the reason they've lost the game, and then you won't hear any media criticism towards Brock Purdy. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek with being the reason that they lost the game. I mean, the only reason that Brock Purdy is the reason that they lose the game is if he has the Baltimore Ravens style meltdown that he had against them. That would be the only reason. Because, all right, you throw 1 or 2 interceptions against this defense. Like, this is an incredible defense. Like, nobody's gonna be bothered about that. But look, the 49ers need to utilize Brock Purdy's legs like they did in the last couple of drives against the Lions. Tell Brock to run if there's a third down there, because everybody's going to be watching Christian McCaffrey, right? Chris Jones is going to live wherever Christian McCaffrey is trying to run. That's where Chris Jones is going to try and go, because the same thing for the Chiefs. The Chiefs need to stop the run. If you stop the run for this 49ers team, you stop this 49ers team. That 47 points, I'm taking the under. Like 100%. I'm taking the under on the 47 points. I think this is going to be a low scoring game, because I think Mahomes and the yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, if each team scores 24, that's already over.
I just think the way that the Mahomes and the Chiefs play, I think they just play the clock this year. They play the clock with their defense this year. That's how. I don't think it's this high flying scoring team. And I do think if the 49ers get ahead, I think if it gets close to the over on that, I think if it hits the over on that and the 49ers get ahead, the 49ers win this Super Bowl. I think if the 49ers get 10 points ahead, then that's the game.
The 49ers live by the rule. It's a race to 30.
Yeah, especially in this game. I think as soon as they get ahead, because people have been highlighting their defensive line woes recently. And when you look at their defensive line, look, we think it should play better. Like, I think it should play better. It's been poor against the run, the defensive line. If you take the run out of the game on this defensive line, it's an excellent pass rushing thing. That's what people are failing to mention when they're talking about the defensive line. It's set up to play from in front. And in their recent games, they've been playing from behind. And they're not set up to play like that.
If the 49ers win the toss, do you receive the ball or do you kick?
I receive. If I'm both teams, I receive the ball. If I'm both teams, I receive the ball, because if I'm the 49ers, I want to play with a lead. And if I'm the Chiefs, I also have to play with a lead. Like, on both teams. Like, the way that the 49ers are set up make the Chiefs say, yeah, give us the ball.
See,
and the way that the 49ers are set up mean that they have to play in front.
If I'm the Chiefs, I take the ball. If I'm the 49ers, I kick, because of exactly what happened in the NFC Championship game. You can fucking hit double at the end and the beginning of the half, and you can bring yourself back if you're down by 14 or less that quick by scoring back to back. And that's why I always think that if I'm the 49ers, I don't, because they did great at in-game adjustments last game and did exactly what they needed to do. If I'm the Chiefs, I take the ball and try to score instantly and put the 49ers on their heels right away, because you don't want the 49ers to be able to feel comfortable with just pounding the run all game long. Because I know people are like, well, the Chiefs are good against the run. They stop the run. It was an average of like 4 yards per less than 4 yards per carry during the playoffs. But my thing is, Christian McCaffrey is a 3-yard runner, 6-yard runner, 4-yard runner, 30 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 60 yards. Like, that's why you keep pumping the ball to McCaffrey. It's not about those 2, 3, 4, 7-yard runs. It's McCaffrey is any moment can break a 30-yard run.
Yeah, the other reason you keep on pounding the ball to McCaffrey is the one time where you play the that you do the play action, and he's out on the side on the screen. So they have this weird kind of play action screen because of how great and committed their wide receivers are to blocking downfield. They can build a screen in a lot more of a. They can really develop the screen. So Christian McCaffrey runs up, looks like he's going to take it between the tackles, and then pops out onto the bubble screen where Debo and Ayuk and Kittle are all blocking on the left-hand side. So the offensive line haven't gone anywhere. The offensive line are doing a perfect play action disguise for a bubble screen on the left, which is a fantastically interesting play.
Kittle doesn't get the respect he should. He's the best blocking tight end in the NFL. He pancake blocked Aiden Hutchinson in the playoffs. Like, he pancaked him. You don't see a tight end pancaking a D end the way he did. So that, like, the blocking and the way their receivers block. But that's the thing for me. So this is what I was going through all week. I was measuring up, right, the teams. You throw the quarterbacks out of it because Patrick Mahomes wins that debate, hands down, which quarterback's better. At tight end, it's Kelsey, but not by a huge amount that he's better than Kittle, because Kittle is fucking really good.
Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of scheme you're going to run. Like, yeah, down the field, passing, wide receiver threat, it's Travis Kelce. And that's not saying that Travis Kelce can't block. But I think Travis Kelce loses significantly in the block to George Kittle as well. So I think they're the perfect weapons for the teams that they play for.
Right. And Kittle can...
Kelce probably makes more of a difference.
And Kittle can open up the middle of the field, makes huge plays in the passing game. So then I went, all right, let's go receivers. Well, I'm like, hands down, that's the 49ers. The receiving core is hands down the 49ers. Check. Offensive line, I think, is the 49ers over the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be mad if anybody called that a push.
I have some questions on the 49ers offensive line side of the ball outside of Trent. Well, I wonder if the scheme, the scheme of Kyle Shanahan makes it more offensive line friendly. So I think then they get the benefit of the doubt there. The Chiefs also have injuries on the offensive line side of the ball with Joe Thuney out. So I'd probably give it to the 49ers over the Chiefs in that one.
And then the running game, it hands down between McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Debo. It's hands down the 49ers because they run Debo too. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a shot at Pacheco, but so then it comes to the defense.
These are the two teams in the Super Bowl.
Right. So then if it comes to the defense, I mean, I can give an argument on both teams. I would say the Chiefs probably a little bit better because of their secondary, but that offensive line or that defensive line for the 49ers, if you're on a pass rush, there's not a better line out there. So that's rough. That's where I went back and forth. And when I got done, the 49ers had more checks than the Chiefs, but I have a hard time betting against the Chiefs. That's where the whole thing came down to for me. It was rough.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs, in terms of scheme and on the defensive side of the ball, I think they have a lot more underrated players that are actually putting up better numbers than the 49ers highly rated stars. Like the 49ers is a defense full of stars. Well, George Karlaftis is putting up bigger numbers than like the second guy on the defensive line for the 49ers, whoever you want that to be, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Greenwood, whoever you wanted to be.
I would say it's Hargrave.
Chris Jones is the best D tackle. Hargrave, yeah, that's fair. Chris Jones is probably the best D tackle in the league. Like, okay, Aaron Donald is in that conversation as well. And then obviously you have Nick Bosa, who's absolutely incredible. Don't get me wrong. Once again, just want to reiterate, these are the two teams in the Super Bowl. So it's not a shot to say one position is better than the other.
And the 49ers have the best linebacking core in the NFL with Greenlaw and Warner.
They have the names. They have the names of the best linebacking core in the NFL. But if you look at production, the Kansas City Chiefs linebacking core do measure up nicely. They're better. The 49ers are better, but it's not as much of a wash as you would think it is. That the 49ers are better when you look at things like production.
if you're comparing this year, they're a little closer. But if you go through history, that you got two possible Hall of Famers sitting on the 49ers.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody blows up a play
year.
better than Greenlaw. Like, and Warner flies like sideline to sideline. It's just, I think they're the two best combination of fucking linebackers in the NFL. And then I give the secondary to the Chiefs because I think they've been playing lockdown. But the 49ers don't have scrubs sitting back there either. And if you can keep pressure on Mahomes, it's going to be harder for him to complete passes because the 49ers can lock you down for 3 seconds off the line. And then Mahomes needs to move around, make plays. That's where it's going to come into the line. So back to what Jack was saying, Samurai Jack, is if you can stop that run, it makes it a long day on that Chiefs offense. But don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, what's quite interesting about the Chiefs secondary matchup is the 49ers wide receivers, because the Chiefs secondary matchup does play lockdown. They do against traditional wide receiver cores. But the 49ers are not a traditional wide receiver core. That's not the way that they work. It's not the way that they operate. So all these lockdown defenses, because the Cowboys, prime example, the Cowboys secondary, that's when Trayvon Diggs was still there, I believe. Maybe not. Can't remember. But anyway, the Cowboys secondary played pretty lockdown all year with guys running it back, Bland running it back for pick sixes. Gilmore had a great year. The 49ers come in and, like, look, the run game absolutely smashes them, but it's not like Brock Purdy wasn't throwing 30-yard darts down the field against the Cowboys either, you know. So that it's the scheme. Where do you give the coaching battle in this particular game? Who wins the battle of the coaches in this one?
It's a good question because they're both two of the best coaches in the NFL, right? So, but I will say, if there's any edge in coaching, Spags has been having the Chiefs defense looking fucking great. So I'm going past Shanahan and Reed and going to Steve Spagnuolo. Because Spags is the X factor in coaching, which is wild to think right now in the scheme of which coaches are sitting in that fucking Super Bowl game.
Yeah, because you have Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. Andy Reid's been here before, won it plenty of times now with the same guy. Like, they've been there before. They've been in these situations. They know these situations. So in terms of experience, you give it to Andy Reid in that one. In terms of creating a crazy offensive scheme, not that Andy Reid hasn't created an amazing offensive scheme, but this year, the offense doesn't go out and score 30 points a game, 40 points a game. They're racing to 21. Like, that's where they're racing to, if you're the Chiefs. So it's an interesting kind of push call there to say about Andy Reid, who's maybe the greatest coach of all time, like, depending on how we look at the metrics of greatest coach of all time, and Kyle Shanahan, who still has another 30 years in the league to potentially be the greatest coach of all time as well.
Right. And what makes Shanahan so difficult to play is that they give you the illusion of complexity, like, because there's so many motions, there's so many shifts, there's so many different moving parts that you're not used to seeing on a weekly basis that fucks teams up. And we know from watching the NFL the way we do, all you have to do for a play to be successful in the NFL is to make the defensive player take 1/2 step the wrong way. That's it. That's how good NFL players are. Yeah. 1/2 step the wrong way. And that's what those shifts and those motions and all of that do. And if you step the wrong way on Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuels or Brandon Ayuk, or, you know what I mean? It's a fucking issue. And we've watched it. But again, what holds me back from pounding the tape, Skip Bayless pounding the table for the 49ers, is I watched the Packers and the Lions eat the center of that defense on the passing game until the second half of the NFC Championship game, where somehow the 49ers switched it up, came out and defended the middle of that field. They have to start the game. Yeah. protecting the middle of that field. They cannot let the Chiefs get out to a hot start. Patrick Mahomes is going to get hot at some point. The longer you can push that off in the game, the more chance you have to win. You let that motherfucker get hot on the first drive, there's a problem.
Yeah, and the other part of this coaching battle, as you so rightly say, is Spagnuolo against Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Who do you think is going to have a bigger difference in this 2-week gap that they've had, where they're able to watch each other's offenses film and they're able to look at what's going on? It's Spags, isn't it? Like, Wilks hasn't shown us his ability to diagnose the issue. Like, in the Packers game, it's not like Aaron Jones stopped running in the second half. Like, they were still, like, the Packers were still tearing them up in the second half. They just, the offense just came back, and like Brock Purdy played great in that second half as well, and drove them down the field.
But there's levels to this stuff, and as much as I love Pacheco, Aaron Jones is a level or two above Pacheco when it comes to running backs. He's got a history of how great that guy is, and they all want to go, oh, it's because of Rodgers. You can give Rodgers all the credit you want, but not for that guy. We watched him do it with or without Rodgers. We watched him do it with different offensive coordinators. We've watched him do it in different systems. Every year, this year it hurt me, but every year I can grab him in fantasy. Aaron Jones has been amazing for me. Like, Aaron Jones is a production machine. And it's nothing against Pacheco. I think Aaron Jones is a top 5 running back.
Yeah, what's interesting about Pacheco in this game is he's not, like, Pacheco runs the ball so hard, man. Like, there's not many running backs in the league where if I said I want to pick up, I need a yard. There's not many running backs I'd pick over Pacheco in the league. But he's little, but he gets a yard.
No, I am agreeing with you.
He's fighting for that yard.
Yes, I'm agreeing.
And he's little. And he's little.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like, you look at it and you just go, yeah, like, give it to Pacheco and see what happens. Now, the running backs that have been destroying the 49ers are not Isaiah Pacheco. They're Aaron Jones. They're Jahmyr Gibbs, which is more McKinnon, is McKinnon fit to play? Is he playing?
I believe so. I'll be sad. He was a Viking for 5 years, so I will be sad if he doesn't play in this game for him.
Or gets a discouraging Super Bowl update this morning from Jerick McKinnon. It's not looking good from what I'm reading here about McKinnon. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if Pacheco can take that step up in this game and be the guy who breaks off big runs, because there's no reason why he's not that guy. There's no reason why he can't be that guy. His running style. So the reason we say he looks so angry, and the reason every people's favorite quote is that he looks angry at the ground when he runs, is because he's so, like, little staccato steps. Like, when I first saw him running, I always said to you that he looks like a typewriter when he runs, where it's like, like, it's little steps. It's not long strides. So he should be able to break off those big runs, and he's not slow. Like, his 40 time is pretty solid. So he's incredible between the tackle, and the reason he gets that power is because he has so much contact with the ground. It looks like he's always in contact with the ground when he's running, so that means he has the power forcing through the ground to run through the guy. That should also give you a good juke. That should also give you a good jump to the outside, which is where you need to be when you're playing against the 49ers. You use that outside leverage, that pass rush against them with the 49ers. So I'll be interested to see how Pacheco gets done in this game. And if the 49ers the game is to stop the run, can they stop him from bouncing to the outside? And can Pacheco elevate his game to the bouncing on the outside in both ways? The run game is where this game is going to be won and lost. Obviously, McCaffrey's going to get his. It's just stopping McCaffrey from scoring massive game-busting plays when he gets his. It's like you almost are happy to see McCaffrey gain 4 yards a carry.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. This fucking game is going to, I mean, if it lives up to even close to the billing, we are going to have a tight, punch you in the mouth game for 60 minutes. And maybe it comes down to which team has the ball in their hand at the end of the game. How exciting would that fucking be in the Super Bowl? Because we went a lot, now not lately, but we went a lot of years where the Super Bowl was not close. And then for the last few years, it's been good games. So I hope it stays that way. That's what I want to see. A tight played, good game. I'm excited. And like, I feel better after we talked about it. I actually feel better about my 49ers pick after we talked this all through.
Good. I think there's logic on both sides of the argument for the 49ers and the Chiefs, which is how you know it's going to be a good Super Bowl, right? Like my mind thinks back to the Tom Brady's last Super Bowl where he beat Patrick Mahomes, and it's like all the logic went with the Bucs in that because the Chiefs' offensive line were all on one leg. So there's no like, and so was Mahomes like going for that one. So that was never going to be close. That's the one.
Here's a crazy stat for you. Patrick Mahomes' first regular season loss, Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes' first playoff loss, Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl loss, Tom Brady. It's wild.
Yeah. When does Tom Brady start calling games? Is he going to get himself on the...
He was on Pat McAfee this last week talking about it. He spent the whole year practicing to be in the booth. That's the most Tom Brady shit ever because Tony Romo does zero prep and just rolls into the fucking booth. But Tom Brady's like, I'm going to take a year and I'm going to practice this shit.
Yeah, you know Brady isn't going to do anything half-assed. Like that's not the way Tom Brady operates.
I am sad though because Greg Olsen is so amazing at calling games, and now he's going to get moved to the second team of calling games for Fox.
I'm sure he'll find some big games to.
I'm hoping some other because he has it in his contract where if he gets bounced to 2 because he's going to go from 11 million to 3 million a year, that he can sign with another company. Can we do it? What about a 3-man booth for Thursday Night Football? Him, Al Michaels, fucking Kirk Herbstreit. I'd love that. Let's figure out what to do with Greg.
Amazon will push a big load of money up to anybody, so that's good. Like you could see him on the Amazon team delivering that, couldn't you? Or like what? Who have the ESPN got at the moment?
Monday Night Football is Troy and Joe Buck, so that ain't going anywhere.
Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
You can go to CBS and dump fucking Tony Romo if you want. Give me the choice, and I liked him at first, but now
they won't dump
my fucking nerves. And he's a Wisconsin kid, so I always loved Romo, but fuck, he's starting to get on my nerves in those games.
Still love Tony Romo. Still a big fan. Oh, everybody! There's a documentary about Louis Rees-Zammit coming out and his pathway to the NFL. So, anybody who's interested, then give that a watch. It's also the Six Nations at the moment. Wales just played all three. Yeah.
What about Wales?
It's also the Six Nations at the moment, which is the rugby tournament in Europe, and Wales just had the craziest game with Scotland. They were 20 points to 0 down at halftime. They were 27 points to 0 down 10 minutes into the second half. And they end the game. They lost, but it was 27-26 at the end of the game. And they lost on the very last play of the game, not getting it over the line. Very crazy, intense game. A lot of screaming in my living room.
That's a rough way to go, though. That's a rough way to lose.
We're expected to be really bad this year, so if we're playing teams close, I'm good. It's all the youngest players. We're the youngest team in the competition. It's all about rebuilding. So if we can come back down from 27-0 down, then I'm happy. They play England this weekend, which is important.
All right, Maddie. Well, before we get out of here, anything else you want to say to anybody before the Super Bowl?
No, have a wonderful Super Bowl, everybody. I don't want to see any Yankee and the Brit fans on here complaining about Taylor Swift's coverage in the Super Bowl. If you're complaining about Taylor Swift's coverage, you need to really look at yourself and think, how much do I want to see those sweaty guys in spandex running around all of the time rather than just getting 4 seconds of somebody else on the screen? Like, come on, guys.
I don't understand how people don't wrap their head around how this is good for the NFL.
I don't get it either. It's like the same with like the overseas game is ultimately good for the NFL. The placement seems to be always awful for the NFL of where they put these overseas games, but it is overall good. Taylor Swift is also good for the NFL. Who else is good for the NFL that they all hate? Colin Kaepernick was actually quite good for the NFL.
Eminem was great for the NFL this year.
Eminem, great for the NFL. Yeah, there's stars that are good for the NFL. Like the NFL, everybody thinks it's an infallible league, right? An infallible. Look what's happening to the NBA. It's falling apart, the NBA. Like, you need to keep progressing. You need to keep growing. Keep it up, NFL.
Yeah, I think Taylor Swift bringing an extra 20 million eyes, 20 million sets of eyes, because I guess that'd technically be 40 million eyes, to the Super Bowl is huge for the NFL. It's great for the players. It means the salary cap's going to go up more. Players are going to make more money. I think it's nothing but good for the NFL. So I find it wild that people have a problem with Taylor Swift.
The other side of this is my heart goes out there to anybody who's having to go to Taylor Swift themed Super Bowl parties because their girlfriends have organized that, and then they have to go and join those. They'll be fun if you make them fun, but it's not exactly how I want to be watching my Super Bowl with 22 going on.
If you get stuck in one of those Super Bowls, I just got one suggestion for everybody. Just shake it off.
Just shake it off.
Shake it. Okay, my bad Taylor Swift reference on the way out.
Boom.
All right, guys, hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.
Happy Super Bowl.